Why did this tower fall over? What happens if we add more water? And why is the ice melting faster over here? Kids ask questions like this all the time, and those questions are actually the beginning of scientific thinking. Hi, I'm Tina from Little Monsters Universe, and I share simple, practical ways to help kids explore, observe, and think like scientists. This video is part of my NGSS Made Simple series, where I break down some of the big ideas behind the next generation science standards into everyday language for parents and educators. In my last video, we talked about patterns as one of the cross-cutting concepts. And today, we're focusing on another major cross-cutting concept, cause and effect. Cause and effect helps kids think about why things happen and how changing one thing can affect another. Cause and effect is really just the idea that one thing happens because something caused it. So the cause is the reason something happens. It comes first and creates a change. The effect is what happens as a result. It's the outcome or consequence of that change. So, if ice melts faster outside on a hot day, the heat from the sun is the cause, and the melting ice is the effect. Or, if a tower falls over after blocks were stacked unevenly, the way the blocks were balanced is the cause, and the tower collapsing is the effect. And in science, kids learn to think through questions like, what caused this? What changed or happened because of it? And what might happen if we try something differently? This is a huge part of how scientists investigate the world around them. In the last video, we talked about how patterns help kids notice what repeats in nature. Cause and effect takes that thinking a step further. Instead of just noticing that something happens again and again, kids begin thinking about why it happens. So instead of simply seeing that plants grow better in one area, they begin wondering if sunlight or water may be causing the difference. Or, instead of just noticing that one paper airplane flies farther, they start thinking about what design choices may have affected the outcome. This kind of thinking helps kids make connections, solve problems, and start making sense of the world in a deeper way. The nice thing? This doesn't have to look like a formal science lesson. A lot of cause and effect learning happens naturally through play, exploration, and everyday experiences. Maybe your child is building a ramp and notices the car goes faster when the ramp is steeper. Or maybe they leave ice in the sun and in the shade and notice that one melts faster. Or maybe they're experimenting with paper airplanes and trying to figure out why one flies farther than another. The goal isn't to immediately explain everything for them. It's to help guide their thinking. Simple questions like, what do you think caused that? What changed? Or, what do you think might happen if we try this? Those kinds of conversations help kids slow down, reflect, and think more deeply about what they're observing. Let's dive in a little deeper and see what this looks like at different ages. For younger kids, like kindergarten through second grade, the focus is really on simple and visible causes and effects. You might freeze 2 cups of ice and place one in the sun and one in the shade to see which one melts faster. Or build block towers and experiment with different ways of stacking them to see what makes them stronger or weaker. Even something as simple as watering a plant and watching what happens over time helps children start connecting actions with outcomes. At this age, it's less about complicated explanations and more about helping them notice changes and to talk about what happened. For kids in 3rd through 5th grade, they can start testing ideas more intentionally. Maybe they experiment with different paper airplane designs to see which flies farther and begin thinking about why. Or they build ramps with different heights and compare how fast a toy car moves. They might test different materials to see which absorbed water best, or explain how sunlight affects plant growth. This is where kids really begin predicting, comparing, and changing variables to see how outcomes change. In middle school, cause and effect becomes more complex and evidence-based. Students might investigate how weather patterns impact ecosystems, how erosion changes landscapes over time, or how human actions can affect the environment. They begin looking at multiple variables and using evidence to support their explanations. At this stage, students are starting to think more critically about relationships between systems and how one change can create a chain of effects. So why does this cross-cutting concept matter? And why do we teach it? Well, cause and effect helps kids understand that the world is connected. Their actions have outcomes. Changes in one part of a system can affect another part. And asking, why did this happen, helps kids move beyond memorizing information and into real scientific thinking. Cause and effect is one of the major cross-cutting concepts in NGSS because it shows up across almost every area of science. Whether kids are learning about weather, ecosystems, forces in motion, engineering, or chemistry, they're constantly thinking about what causes change and what happens as a result. These cross-cutting concepts are really the tools students use to make sense of science across lots of different topics. So when we help kids think about cause and effect, we're helping them to do more than memorize science facts. We're helping them ask questions, test ideas, solve problems, and make sense of the world around them. We're helping them to think like scientists. If you'd like more simple ways to support your child's learning, make sure to follow along. I'll be continuing this series by breaking down more NGSS concepts into practical, everyday ideas you can use at home or in the classroom.